That committee regarding the order, social sentences.
Which is dedicated to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a parliamentary minutes on and corrections to the general consent calendar. And the resolution of the consent will approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on that? Start with the motion.
Good afternoon. I'm going to be talking to you this afternoon about the annual tax roll turnover. And Gary, I think we need to open the public hearing at this time. Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Okay, so I believe all of you have been through the process before, except for Director Higgins, who's new. So I'll maybe a little closer. I'll give a little bit of background on what the tax roll process is and how it works for us every year. So essentially, this is an opportunity that we have once per year. The El Dorado County tax assessor allows us to take our delinquent accounts with delinquent balances, and we can place those on the secured tax roll for each parcel, and we'll transfer the delinquent balance from the utility account that we have onto essentially they call it a direct charge. And what it is it shows up as a line item on the property tax statement. So, like I said, this is an opportunity we have once per year. We always do this in July, and the county has a deadline of August 10th for us to send them a completed package. There's quite a bit that goes with it. But essentially what I'm presenting to you today is the list of this delinquent accounts as they currently stand. So one thing I wanted to make you aware of is that we notified the customers whose accounts are on the list back in the first week of July, and so we send them an initial letter letting them know that they have a delinquent balance that's in jeopardy of being sent to the county unless they pay it by July 31st. So we give them some time to get that balance paid down. If they're able to pay that off, then we don't transfer any amounts to the county, and if they don't pay it off, whatever portion of it is unpaid when we compile that list and send it to the county, is on it. So essentially, this is something that we've been doing every year for a long time, and the reason that we do it is because it's a really cost-effective way to collect these delinquent balances. So the county does charge us for it, but their cost recovery is very cheap. So as an example, last year, our final amount that we sent over was about $395,000 on 340 accounts, and the cost recovery from El Dorado County for collecting all of those funds is $450. So it's very effective. It gives our customers a chance to get kind of a clean start. So we have quite a few customers who actually like it once we're able to explain to them how it works. It just makes it a little more manageable because they're able to bring the back to current with the utility account that we have with them. And so let me talk a little bit about the numbers this year. This year, one thing that we were really hoping with monthly billing is that it would be helpful for our customers to budget their water and sewer payments. So this tax roll includes some delinquent balances from the quarterly billing, so they're higher than they typically would be. And so what we're doing this year is we're hoping that the tax roll will really clean up these accounts and then give people a fresh start. They'll just have a balance of 1 month billing essentially, and we're hoping that then we can work with them on staying current. And so a little bit about the list. On the list you see in front of you, when we started this, the first week of July, so right after we generated the July statements, there were 808 accounts, about $858,000 of past due balances. And so since then, as of this morning, we're down to 679 accounts, about $750,000 in delinquent balances. So every year this comes down, and typically it ends up being somewhere around $450,000 over the last couple of years. Usually 350 to 400,000 is what we end up with. So we expect it to continue to come down as we've given them a deadline of the 31st to pay before we compile that for the county. A little bit about the account. So on the list, about 15 to 20% of these, right around 20%, are sewer-only accounts, but we don't really have any other way of collecting on those. This has been kind of a long-standing issue that with the water service, we can disconnect it for non-payment. With our sewer-only accounts, we really can't. So this is the primary way that we collect on those. We have a couple large commercial accounts on the list. So 3% of the accounts are commercial accounts, but those 3% make up about 15% of the total delinquent balance. This is another kind of a long-standing, some of these are motels and other accounts that the county will not allow us to disconnect. One other thing is that at this time, we're not currently doing disconnections for non-payment on water. There's a state law that has some requirements, that the requirements for disconnecting service for non-payment have changed. And right now, we have to revise our administrative code and a lot of our procedures to comply with that state law. And so that will be an option in the future. We're working on that currently, and I'll be bringing an ordinance back to you shortly that will handle that, bring us back into compliance. So that's an option in the future. Another thing we're looking at to maintain our, to keep our collections in check is that in the past we sent out reminder letters for customers who miss a payment on their bills. Our new billing system has that same functionality. We used to do this with our prior system, and that was effective. And so what we're really looking to do is we kind of stopped that during the COVID years. So the tax roll is kind of our big cleanup, and then we're going to look at potentially starting to send out those reminder letters again, and we'll ramp up our collection efforts to help people stay current. We're also hoping that the lower monthly bill amount will help them to better budget for this charge too. So this is kind of our first year we're doing it. We're looking to kind of gather information and see how the customers respond to the monthly charges once we help them clear out this delinquent balance. But essentially, this is the tax roll process that we do each year. So the board kind of adopts this list and then authorizes the county to place these charges on the secured tax roll. Does anybody have any questions?
So, yeah, just really quick, just trying to understand that. So there's still going to be 10 more days. This list will likely get smaller, right?
Correct.
Before it gets submitted to the assessor.
Yeah, and typically we get quite a few payments right up against the deadline. So people have been in contact with customer service, they're aware of this. And a lot of the customers on the list have been on this list before, so they're familiar with the process. Some who like it because it allows them, a lot of people have an impound account with their mortgage company where it just becomes part of their monthly mortgage payment. And so one of the things I forgot to touch on is that the district gets paid from the county as soon as the tax bills are paid. So for the majority of these, we get paid in the 2 property tax installments within a year. Some of them, the taxes are not paid, it can trickle in over the next couple of years, but we really don't have a lot of them that we're, holding out on. And eventually we always get paid. If the property sells or anything like that, those taxes need to be paid.
There's a 30-day window here, so the first delinquency notice went out July 1st.
Correct. Yeah, we give them about 30 days before we have to get that over to the county. And the reason we do that is so that we can include basically a delinquent balance as of that July billing. And we're primarily targeting accounts, so it's not everybody who misses a payment on this. These are customers who are 2 or more payments behind. Okay. Yeah, so they're behind at least 2 cycles by the time they make up the list. Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm just curious, so you just indicated this is pretty consistent every year in terms of the total amount. So there's no trend in going one way or the other in terms of more or less delinquent.
It's close, so I can give you, so last year it ended up at 400,000 was the tax roll. The year before that, so 21-22 was higher, 696,000. The reason for that was that we did not send one over during that 2020 2020, essentially the first year of COVID, the board opted to not do a tax bill transfer. So that $696,000 the second year is the same kind of right around 350 times 2. Going back before that, it was, in 2019-20, 360,000. So it has been consistent, right around this 350 to 400,000, even as the rates have increased. One thing that in the past, we have hired temporary staff or part-time staff to assist with dedicated collections. That's something that's been very effective, and that has been, kind of what it takes. It just takes a lot of follow-through to have somebody dedicated to collecting on these accounts. So all of the customer service reps kind of split those duties and we do what we can. But in the past, when we've been able to have someone who's really focused on that, we've seen good results and kind of bringing the delinquencies down.
So you haven't really seen any shift or change as a result of us switching up to the monthly billing cycle, and that hasn't really impacted people's ability to get their payments. It doesn't seem like it's something that is pretty consistent.
So far, but it's hard to tell because of those balances that they came in with. So a lot of the people, if we missed, essentially, since we just started billing monthly this year, so there were 2 quarterly billings before that. And so people came in with monthly billing potentially with $500 or $600 past due balance. And so that's why I'm hoping that once we are able to adjust this up and give them a clean slate, that's what I'm curious in seeing is whether we can, help keep them on track without having a big balance. So we have a lot of people who've made payments for their large balances, but they'll send in something like $50 or $75 a month, but in the past they've missed a couple of quarters so that, they have a $500, $600 past due balance, and so it's harder to chip away at it.
Is there any way to attend to certain situations, people who challenge with paying their bills or housing costs, or is there any other way to, I guess I mean what I'm getting at is this, I guess our program that helps to support lower income folks, that kind of, and do you have any ability to kind of zero in on some of these numbers and figure out who might be having difficulty just making and like that's an opportunity for us to point to, I guess, our CARES program
and we do that. So anytime that we speak with customers, we refer all of them to apply for CARE if they meet the qualifications. There's a county program that was actually federally funded this year. They called it LIWAP, was an abbreviation. But there was quite a bit of money that came from the federal government as part of the COVID Relief Act. And so that money the restrictions for qualifications were much more lenient. And so we had quite a few people that we referred to that. And I think the district, as of this point, has gotten $30,000 in payments through that program. And that was quite a few customers that took advantage of that. And they were paying all of the past due balance for anyone who was behind. And then they actually changed the rules and started giving more based on your income. So even if you weren't behind, you could qualify. And we had customers who received payments that they left them with a credit on the account to be applied to our future billings. But so what my plan is to set since this will be the first time we'll be able to start people with some of these people who have really struggled and fallen behind on their quarterly payments. This will be the first time that their balance will just be 1 month's payment. And so I'm hoping to do a lot of that kind of data gathering and looking into what we can do to help our customers, budget for the bill and stay on track with the new monthly charges. I'm really hoping that we'll be able to do that moving forward after this year's so the better the place to look more closely at it.
So in regards to the CARE program, are you still looking into finding like an easier way for people to get involved and finding financial assistance for that kind of stuff? Or is that, are we still kind of taking the CARE program? Or is that anything?
This is interesting. I'll give you a little bit of research that I did not just recently. So the CARES program is something unique. So essentially, what I did recently is call a bunch of public utilities around Lake Tahoe and not one of them has anything resembling the CARE program. So they don't offer any low-income discounts through their utility. And what they all told me is that they refer their customers to programs that are available through the state or county. So the reason for that is that we're not able to use water or sewer revenue to charge any customers differently. So our CARE program offers a 25% discount to folks who meet certain income requirements, but it's funded by our property tax revenues. And so this is why a lot of utilities don't offer any income. There's a state law that essentially says that we have to bill every customer equitably, and so we can't subsidize those discounts with water or sewer revenue. So we do it with other revenue, and that's something we are able to offer our customers. In the past, the board has expanded it it used to be a 20% discount, and it was increased to 25%, maybe 5 years ago. That was a popular decision and helped those customers out. But right now, we partner with Liberty Energy on the qualifications. And the reason for that is that they do all of the record keeping. Essentially, our requirements are the same. So we refer customers to them first to fill out their application. And then once they qualify them, we just request a copy of the power bill that shows that rate, and then we add them onto our program. So it saves a lot of paperwork. So we could always expand that discount, but that was something I wanted to point out, was just the way that it's funded and how rare it is. I talked to quite a few customer service managers and some accounting people, and they said that they've never considered that.
One thing I would say though is understanding the labor system and particular how they have established here. I would argue to you it was a system that was developed not to work and not to be effective, and I would encourage people to go through their online system if you're curious, just to see how it functions and see the people that will be using it if they can really develop to be successful. I'm very suspect in that. And so, I've referenced this several times, so, I won't reiterate the point. I would encourage us, and I think that's great that we engage in this and the uniqueness of it, but just ensuring that we have a system that actually works for people and not in name only. Because again, I think it's a system that's being so off-launching in terms of accessibility and usability for individuals. And not to criticize you or anything, of course, we're doing, but more just to comment to the system and how we, if ever possible, given the limitations you kind of stated, if there was another way of looking at that, I think I would be curious to see what that would be.
Yes, I think I'd be happy to look into that.
Any other questions? Actually, I don't need to belabor, but probably just wait on the notification. If the system is able to do that, but I can see 30 days, just get it behind me. The system allows it, it's not allowed to administrative, it's just having a few listing notice right now.
Yep, like I said, we saw good results with that in the past. We had started that a couple of years before COVID, and we're doing that quarterly. It was less frequently, the letters. So we're now, it did save a lot of money from just people in this one.
Right. You don't have to.
Okay. Right.
Let's reserve an action. Okay.
Would this go to the public hearing?
Yeah, before you go, first ask if there's any public comment and then close the public hearing.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Ryan?
Okay. Staff is requesting that the board approve the list of delinquent accounts and adopt resolution number 3254-23, authorizing the list of delinquent accounts to be added to the 2023-24 Eldorado County Tax Assessor's Roll.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second, any discussion? There's someone there on that list. I'm not on this.
You stop doing money adoption on your way out.
All right.
One more. That motion passed unanimously.
Okay, the 6B, personal emergency response.
Yeah, so we're just seeking to continue the emergency again, so that engineering can continue with their planning, design, and ultimately construction of the house building out there, Falling Lake that got destroyed. I can show them. So if you didn't actually hear me, we're just seeking to continue the emergency action so that engineering can continue their planning, design, and construction in the future of the power building out there at Palm Lake that got destroyed this winter. So if there's no questions.
There was also one other emergency item that came up, this week about El Tahoe well building. Can we talk about that at all?
You'll have to continue the emergency, but if you want to go ahead and.
Yeah, I guess just the other item that we are also actively working on is this, well building out at, the El Tahoe well site, the original well building, was slated for demolition in like 3 years, but, as a result of the storms, the roof is collapsing, and so we are working on, plans to demolish that building under the emergency response and, abandon the wellhead that is inside. So, that's new, since the last board meeting, with the plans to, carry forward with these things under the emergency.
Any questions?
Are we looking to extend this kind of throughout the summer until we can start concluding?
Yeah, that's the plan. And one thing I'm going to look into, I haven't spoken to Gary about this, but I'd like to see this just roll through on the consent agenda during this process instead of bringing it forward on action every single time.
I would feel comfortable with that, that's like kind of why just like what reported, right, why we're continuing it.
I mean, I guess the question is like, every time we continue, is that just need another amount of money that's coming with that, or is that?
Not necessarily, no, just keeping it active.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, requested board action is pursuant to Public Contract Code, Section 22050C, continue the emergency action to respond to the winter storms emergency pursuant to resolution number 3242-23.
Motion passes unanimously.
Very good. So, 16, council order services call.
Okay. So as you know, back on June 19th, the board interviewed 3 law firms to provide general counsel services for the district and ultimately selected the firm of Jones & Mayer out of Citrus Heights, California, just suburb of Sacramento down there. We requested a proposed contract from them and received it. The board committee that was selected to participate in this process and staff went through that contract, had just a couple of minor edits. And so according to the terms of the contract, Keith Collins from the firm, who's a partner, will be designated as general counsel of the district and responsible for all the work that they will be doing on behalf of the district, as well as supervising any special counsel outside of their firm. And so the rates for their services are $230 an hour for general legal, $250 for special legal, $275 for litigation, and $130 for paralegal services. And these rates will remain in effect for 2 years from the date of signing the contract, and then they'll be adjusted annually based on the CPI adjustment with a maximum increase of 5% per year. So the effective date of the agreement is July 1st, which is tomorrow, and shall remain in effect until terminated either by the district or Jones Mayer. The district can terminate the agreement at any time. Jones Mayer can terminate the agreement with a 90-day notice. And so following execution of the agreement, we'll get a meeting set up with Gary, Keith, and staff here at the district to develop an appropriate transition plan for the work that Gary has outstanding right now.
Any questions? Very good. Sorry.
Sure. Just real quick, I'd like to take just a moment to thank Gary very much for the general counsel services him and his firm has provided the district for the last 25 years. We have very much appreciated the relationship we've had with you, as well as the outstanding legal services provided by you and your firm.
It's been a pleasure working with you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you.
Okay, requested board action, authorize the district board president and interim general manager to execute an agreement for legal services with the law firm of Jones Mayer.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Good. And the gavel. Okay, for this next item, and then we'll repeat.
Good afternoon, board members. Here to talk about Tahoe Keys. Basically, we're looking at a couple things here. We're looking at increasing the reimbursement agreement with the Tahoe Keys to pay for additional engineering services with the consolidation analysis. And we're looking to issue a task order to the consultant to move forward with the phase 3B of the engineering consolidation analysis, which is the full analysis to figure out what projects are needed to really consolidate the two systems. The reimbursement agreement, we're looking to increase by $150,000. The proposal from Kennedy James was for $203,000. The reason we're not requesting that full amount is because we have a grant from DORADO County Water Agency that's going to pay for half of the analysis. So the $150,000 really is about $100,000 towards the consultant, as well as $47,000 for staff time and additional legal time. This went to the Tahoe Keys board yesterday, and it was approved by them for the increase in the reimbursement agreement. One thing on the Kennedy James proposal is there's some optional services there. One of those optional services is a really important one. It's the hydraulic modeling piece of it. That piece, we do not have it included in this task order because we're planning to do that with in-house staff. There is a chance it might have to come back to that. We are a little impacted with that current staff number on doing design drawings for upcoming capital projects. So keeping that hydraulic modeling in is going to be a little bit of an issue. We're going to try and figure out how we can do that, but there is a chance that we might need to have Kennedy James do that hydraulic analysis. If that's the case, we'll come back with that additional money later. Do you guys have any questions?
Were you going to use mortgage?
I would not.
I was just curious kind of what the tone and tenor of the conversation was, if there was any, as it came through.
I did talk to the general manager this morning, and then what he basically told me is there wasn't a lot of questions about the work, and that it pretty much went through smoothly.
Any other questions? Or actually, we'll say.
All right. Got three things here. This is kind of a long one. Number one, approve amendment number 2 to the reimbursement agreement with the Tahoe Keys Property Owners Association. 2, approve the proposed scope of work from Kennedy James to provide professional services to evaluate potential consolidation with the Tahoe Keys Property Owners Association water system. And 3, authorize the interim general manager to execute a task order amendment with Kennedy James in the amount of $203,302 for phase 3B of the engineering consolidation act.
Any discussion? Question?
Motion and second.
Thank you.
Motion passes by 4 yes.
Feedback? Feedback?
Yes.
You ready?
You ready to revise it? Then we begin.
We're at the City of South Lake Tahoe Park Committee meeting this week, and we're doing a mural for the Margaritaville redevelopment project. And there's some question whether palm trees would fit in Tahoe. Well, I'm going to say sure.
right, we're on to item 7. Start with Nick. Excellent. Nothing.
Should I pass one on to Nick?
We had on the committee review, good meeting, I think it was good, introduction and presentation from Aaron and the acting plant manager. The ops committee is starting to invite more of the operations managers in as well to get a better sense of, field operations, plant operations, obviously in addition to engineering and all the projects. So, it's a great opportunity to learn about more for me anyway, as a relatively new board member. I wonder how long I can say that. But, a lot of activity, a lot of good stuff going on, and, always a shame to pinpoint anything that you want to highlight. Project-wise.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think everything, in terms of, our reactive orders are lower than last year. Things are going pretty well. There's a couple, issues, I guess, with our, flushing system over at Red Lake. It seems like we have a flushing system in place now, starting to move water through there, so we're not getting the hits, but there's another location we're having challenges with iron up by Headland. Let's see. No, I mean, I think the majority of the meeting, Aaron was really helpful, just kind of getting an insight on what's going on there, and might be some opportunities to move forward in interim, finding some additional support for that group, to keep things going and stop burning people out. I don't know, Julie, is there anything else I'm missing that's like super critical? I think everything was pretty much.
Yeah, I guess, maybe a bit of a heads up in case you guys are approached in the community about some issues we're having, noise complaints on the fans that are integral to our new backup batteries that are tank sites. We've had complaints from neighbors at 4 of the 11 sites so far. And so we are, doing what we can to temporarily address the issue, either unplugging the units altogether or changing the set points so the fans don't go on, as much as we investigate, like, what can we do about this? Why are these fans so loud? Yesterday, one of those, sites was actually vandalized, and so, we are working with the sheriff on that. So, an unexpected turn of events. What's that? Targeting the van? Targeting the van. Yeah.
I guess it's because, the CRP and implementation, I mean, do we have a sense of what we're talking about in terms of?
Yeah, so,
level?
we're in your 65 active.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if you hold like right up to it, it's like 60, 65 decibels. At the property line kind of thing, yeah, it's below the TOPA levels, but it's like having your backup fan running, right? It's kind of loud, kind of annoying. You don't want to listen to that when you're sitting in your backyard. You don't want to listen to it when you're sleeping with your windows open. And for those of the complaints we're getting, it's like, it's just loud enough and just annoying of enough sound. It's not like a real quiet fan sound. You can hear the motor of the fan as well. It's not just like movement. So it's annoying. I completely agree with them. And we've been looking through that. You don't want that in your backyard. We get used to a quiet water tank. It's nothing compared to a pump station or a well, that other people live next to, but it's still, the change from the piece of life.
So there's that one, and then, do we have in the staff report anywhere anything on the, Luther Pass stuff? Yes. Okay, then we'll wait for that.
Yeah, and then, the only other thing, executive thing that on the 14th, our AD-HOC general manager recruitment committee, excuse me, and shortlisted the, candidate pulled down to 5 or 6 units. So, we're gonna have interviews on the 31st, that's gonna be a special meeting of the full board, to interview those 5 candidates, so,
I mean, we get in total, residents, 91.
yeah. Pretty big candidate pool, and, fortunately, the consultant narrowed it down, and did the heavy lifting, reading all of those resumes and all those applications, and, really helps us make a decision to get them on file. I think we got 5 good candidates for the board as well. So, any other, board member reports?
Just to say, I attended an event last night, held by the Tahoe Climate Change Action Network, and it was really an exciting event in that, the city of South Tahoe Refuse was there, people from the TC board, and they were all kind of talking about what they were doing to both Alliance. I referenced a few things we were doing within the district, but I really wanted to take a moment to, of course, highlight the solar project and so forth, but talk also about what we did for fire preparedness. And I think what was, people came up to me afterwards, and just because, they're not familiar with all the things we've been doing in the community, most specifically about fire preparedness. So, wanted to highlight that, and, obviously, thank all the staff for kind of bringing that to fruition, let you know that kind of the positive feedback you get in the community when you start to explain to people all the efforts that we're undergoing to make sure our community fire safe. Just wanted to highlight that for everybody.
Very good. Moving on, let's go to item 9A, staff and attorney reports, what we updated, Shelley.
Good afternoon. I'm going to provide a quick update on legislative affairs. So this summer, Senator Padilla is hosting the 27th annual Tahoe Summit. It will be on Wednesday, August 7th from 10 to noon up in Kings Beach. This annual event is a chance to really celebrate Tahoe's many successes, discuss challenges ahead, and hopefully reaffirm the federal government's commitment to the lake. So I've been working really closely with the Tahoe Interagency Executive Group to plan a pre-summit educational tour for our legislative staff, a post-summit luncheon for our representatives, and what we're highlighting is the need for federal funding to help upsize water infrastructure to fight fire. Of course, our goal for this effort is to try to increase the Lake Tahoe Restoration Act allocation for water infrastructure. So you'll remember that we were awarded $2 million this year. The appropriation was up to $10 million, and to try to get closer to that $10 million mark for the basin. I plan on attending the summit. The Tahoe Water for Fire Suppression Partnership will have a booth, as will Tahoe Water for Fires Association, and I would like to invite any of you to join me. Any thoughts right now on folks interested or RSVPing for this event? Yeah, it's Wednesday, August 9th. From 10 to noon up at Kings Beach. There will likely not be any on-site parking, so there will be parking at transportation hubs and then going in.
And then there's a tentative. The water agency board meeting that morning. So there's anything hot on the agenda, I'm going to do that instead. Right, I'd rather go to the office.
Just as an FYI, they moved that meeting back down to Placerville because of the summit taking place here.
Yeah, and kind of as a standing item, we advertise this location also. So, okay, we're just trying to host everybody, but depending on if there's something that I need to be in the meeting for, then I'll do that instead. But yeah, if you can pass me in, that'd be great. Full carpool.
Full carpool.
Not even, unfortunately.
I'll get back to you. I do, they are really, I've been to some good ones. My first one, Tahoe, I got to see President Obama, and they're good. No pressure, just if you'd like to go, I'm sure RSVP and coordinate our board. All right, and then moving on to bills and appropriation. So I've been really busy the last handful of months building relationships with our delegation. In June, we hosted a tour with State Senator Alvarado Gill, Assemblywoman Megan Valley, and Senator Brian Valley to discuss the Tahoe fire and the important role water infrastructure played in it. This Friday, tomorrow, I'm hosting Congressman Kiley on a tour of our Arrowhead tank to talk about the Tahoe fire, and then we're heading up the West Shore to meet up with our North Shore community partners to talk about just those all of our neighborhoods in the Louis that we still don't have fire hydrants. So we're leading this tour, and we've invited, obviously, our public utility district partners, Tahoe City and North Tahoe. The Forest Service is joining us, as is our local fire district, Tahoe Resource Conservation District, and Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. And I'm a little biased, but I do think that this work is paying off. At the state level, SB 470, that's the bill that we worked on with Senator Alvarado Gill to expand grant eligibility to include water for fire suppression projects. It has passed through committee, and it's looking like it's on the home stretch and going to pass, which is spectacular. And that's the first time our local water district has been a part of writing the bill and getting it across the finish line. So excited about that. And then at the federal level, Congress agreed this year to receive earmark requests. So we worked with Congressman Kiley and Senators Padilla and Feinstein to include $4.5 million request for our Pioneer Trail Waterline project. We found out this week that our project was included in the fiscal year 24 appropriations bill for the House. The House has provisionally awarded $1 million for this project, and there's still a lot of hurdles to cross. The Senate has to make their own sausage, then they've got to work together. We don't know if earmarks will end up being included in this year's federal budget. But I think that this is a really significant step in the appropriation process, and the fact that of all of the projects across the entire United States, our Pioneer Trail project is on the list, and the House moved it forward. So I'm excited that I'm not holding my breath that Congress is going to pass earmarks this year, but I think it shows that we've been building partners with our representatives to be a part of the process and to be included in it. And if they are going to pass it, I expect we'll get some funds.
And your lobbying efforts engaged with ADs in Feinstein's office about this as well?
We did, yeah. They had a solicitation process where we submitted our project proposal, and then we met with all three officers ahead of their decision making to highlight the importance of this particular project. There's a lot of back and forth of can we spend the money and time, what exactly it was for, fine-tuning it to make sure that we were eligible and this was a good project. And then it's made it on, at least on House before, so the Senate committee a week and a half to do that.
No, great work. That's a real achievement.
Yeah, thank you. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Sean. All right, on B, Water Conservation Ordinance discussion.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Lauren Benfield, and I am a water conservation specialist. Some of you might know me from last year, as I was a Water Conservation AmeriCorps member, and it's a pleasure to be back at the district this year. Today, I'm here to discuss the Water Shortage and Drought Response Standard Ordinance. This ordinance sets our designated watering days. We are looking at updating the ordinance and launch rookie. Whatever changes we agree upon would go into effect next year. For background, the ordinance was first adopted in 1990. It had a major update in 2004, and then a minor change to wording in 2015. Over the years, California continues to implement new regulations around conservation, and updating the water conservation ordinance will allow the district to more effectively respond to drought. At present, the ordinance has 3 stages. The first stage, which people are most familiar with, allows customers to irrigate 3 days a week. Drip irrigation is exempt from designated days. No irrigation is allowed on Saturdays, and it does not allow for water waste. The second stage allows for 2 days of irrigation per week, and then the third stage, there's no irrigation allowed. We are looking at ways to improve this ordinance to be able to better respond to drought. We are considering these following updates. First, we would require drip irrigation to be used on designated watering days. While drip irrigation can save water, we have found that many customers run it for extended periods of time, resulting in little to no water savings. Deep, infrequent watering promotes healthy root growth and helps to limit weeds as well. Another benefit of making drip irrigation comply with designated watering days is how we enforce this program. Before we had meters, we hired seasonal staff to drive through town during the summer months, looking and listening for people irrigating on wrong water days. With the installation of meters and the AMI system, we can now track water use using the Water Smart system. By making drip irrigation comply with designated watering days, we will also be able to track it using Water Smart. The second update limits irrigation hours. Customers would be required to water between 6 p.m. and 10 a.m. Watering midday is less efficient because of rapid evaporation. The third update limits the number of watering exemptions to 2 per year. Watering exemptions allow customers to water daily after planting new seeds, sod, or other sort of shrubs and plants. This update will help prevent those who continuously apply for exemptions so they can irrigate every single day all summer long. For the final update, we're looking at adding another stage to ordinance to give customers a smoother transition. If we need to ratchet down water use due to drought, the additional stage allows for 2 times a week of watering, which means it would go from 3 times a week watering to 2 times a week to 1 time per week to finally no days allowed. Do you guys have any questions?
Just on the drip irrigation, so I know there's a big, I guess the question would be, do you see that at all undermining our choke buyback program or other efforts in countries? Because I think there was some expectation, maybe said, even by people that have already exercised that they went to drip irrigation and now they've been watered more regularly. Is there a concern there of undermining that program?
I don't see that, and personally, when I've gone out on choke buyback calls with our water efficiency technician, Jennifer Clussy, she does talk about irrigating infrequently and how that really does help, promote growth with all of these native plants. She talks about it with trees as well. And so that's kind of my experience. And I see people with drip irrigation that are irrigating on the correct days currently, even though they have this exemption, and I haven't gotten any feedback otherwise.
I would know that there's not native species that you should be irrigating that much, just appropriately. I was somewhat surprised. There's just still a lot of people watering in the middle of the day. I thought we all kind of understood that, sorry, but I mean, never mind. I personally, I think it's good. I don't have any questions. I think it just keeps it, from my perspective, all things are more uniform, and the system to ratchet up and down is more straightforward because we're going to be dealing with fluctuations from depending on the year, so it all makes sense.
One of the things like I said, we want to have a job in south of Tahoe. Our groundwater fluctuates a couple feet. We see that the worst the bottom of it to ground is about a couple feet. We have a certain amount of water. So we don't want to ground. So are we going to it's just because of a state mandate, is the wording that you're proposing, is that because of a state mandate, or is it because we think we need to do this for some reason? I understand if we want to cut down on the water, we go down the sewer. We're focusing on water conservation on indoor stuff that goes down the drain, because every gallon of that goes over really fast, and it costs a lot of money, and climate change and all that. But, whatever is on the lawn, if there's excess, whether it's during the day or during the night, it doesn't matter. If you purchase, you'll get that into the system. So, it's not like, we have a resource problem and it needs to be solved by a water conservation problem. So, again, I don't put anybody to it very much. I was over there a couple days ago, and it's like a rainforest. The amount of landscaping water is lush. It's extravagant, the amount of landscaping, and that's justifiably so. We're on an infinite water supply, and they can make their landscapes just incredibly beautiful. But it's quite different over here. And I get it when in California, and we get a particular Sacramento. And maybe that's the reason we're doing this. And then I guess I'd just like to comment why are we doing this?
Yeah, I can answer a part of that, and then I'll go to Shelley. So in terms of like water use, I know we think that a lot of water is used inside your home, but actually during the summer months we see that 3 times the amount of water used. It goes up 3 times the amount because of irrigation. So this is kind of one of the easiest ways to help conserve water.
Yeah, so I think you bring up a really interesting point, and it's state mandate, right? So we've got a few things coming. Last summer, and the summer before, the governor had drought restrictions in effect, mandating that everybody go to stage 2 in their water shortage contingency plan. How our water shortage contingency plan is set up is currently our stage 1 of our ordinance is stage 1 and 2 in our water shortage contingency plan. But I would not be surprised if we see more across the board mandates like that come from the state. And the hope is that we have our plan set up so that when we are forced to go to that next level, it's the right step. It's the smoothest transition for our customers to respond to the drought. So there's that piece of it. The second piece is the state's rolling out their water use efficiency standards. We've been working on them the last few years. This is the one that has the indoor water use where it's going from 55 to 52 to 48 gallons per person per day. For outside, they have that aerial imagery that they took and then polygoned out every single property in our community to determine irrigable, non-irrigated, non-irrigable areas. Of course, for the specials, there was that canopy coverage and the shading that made our irrigable area really, really, really small. So we work with the state. I believe we will be in compliance with that, and I'm expecting the state to keep rationing. These tools are in place so that we can make sure we're in compliance with the state, so that we're eligible to keep applying for state revolving loan funds, all the state grant programs, etc. So, and incline, I'm not surprised that it is lush. It is Nevada, so they don't have, their water districts don't have to meet the same state standards with the annual reporting on this metric. But I think it's a good question when we look at our water.
So that's a good answer, and that's the answer I would like to be able to give customers, because they're not down. They know that this supply, that they don't have droughts, and they wonder why. That's why we're mandating stuff on them. If we can just put that off on the state, and it's we're a meeting, we're just complying with state regulations and law. That's it. But I'm certainly not going beyond that. Other board members may have a difference of opinion, but, I'm okay with meeting a letter of the regulations and the law, but not an initial one. That's me.
I mean, the one thing I would say, sorry, that I would note is, and especially as we get to the next agenda item, although we have water, collecting and transporting water is highly expensive, and every gallon of water you put through the system is also degrading the system. So all of this goes into a function of not just kind of our availability of water, which is why resource in terms of energy, but then also how we use our system. And I think more broadly to your point, like that's the answer. But I don't want those other variables that exist with kind of movement of water being forgotten. But again, I think the answer is what Shelley said.
And can I add one more point? It kind of follows on what Lauren was talking about the high consumption in the summertime that is directly tied to landscape irrigation. And we design our well network based on our max day demands. Our max day demands in the peak summer, that's largely being driven by the irrigation consumption. And we know right now that we have less well capacity than we need to meet those max day demands. So, trying to move the needle on people's irrigation behavior may actually help us save them money by not having to install wells that we're really using for irrigation.
Yeah, well, you can do that by spreading out the demand rather than eliminating the demand. So I think you can accomplish your hardware and operations goal by just spreading out the demand. I encourage you to study the watering schedule that the keys put together, and we don't have any answer. Does that pass? So we'll be studying that. You'll see the watering schedule where certain addresses I can water from 2 to 4 in the morning, other ones from 5 to 7 in the morning, and it ends up spreading the peak because we have exactly that same problem that you're talking about. So, but I think you can do that and still have a nice landscape. You don't have to restrict water, you just have to restrict the timing of water. So anyway, I'm cool with state mandates, and we gotta do this to keep you around on the farm. That's a good answer to give people. But if we're going beyond that and saying we're being altruistic, and even though you're living in Tahoe, I think people on the South Shore should not have any landscaping, but people in painting and a joke. I just don't think that's right.
Although I would say the people of South like have a culture in my village, they take that apple in. And so I think like these things aren't apples to apples. There's a lot of things wrong with incline. And I do think it's important to know, especially as it relates to turf. Our soils are underlying granite. Like it's going high, grass does not grow there, and it doesn't grow there for a reason. And so again, it's more to my grandmother's ethic of responsibility usage of things than any altruistic like endeavor. Why it's worth it because of my grandmother. Like you didn't take more food than you needed, you didn't use the resource wisely. And so I would always counsel every time thing, think about that action, how you're interacting with things, and what you're doing is appropriate for the place you live or not. And again, I don't know if you want to regulate that, but from an intellectual conversation, that should be included within it.
So the discussion is taking place right now at the board. This is why you're hearing this as a staff report versus an agenda item, because we had that discussion last week. And so, yeah, we wanted to see, obviously, if there was buy-in for these changes before bringing it back for an actual action item.
Good. Good what you're looking for? All right, thank you very much. All right, 9C, energy based on the presentation.
Good afternoon. Dragon all the For those of you who I haven't met before, my name is Abby. I'm serving as a Biggest Part AmeriCorps Fellow with the Engineering Department. I'm here today to present the information for the Energy Baseline Project. For those of you who don't know, the creation of an energy baseline for the district was started about 2 years ago with my predecessor Jocelyn. The purposes of the energy baseline are to help us visualize our energy use patterns here at the district. By visualizing our energy use patterns, we can understand how different forces, including weather, human behavior, and natural disasters can impact our energy use. In future, we hope to use these to set energy use and greenhouse gas emission targets. So a little bit of background. Anytime I talk about energy in this presentation, I'm really talking about grid electricity from Liberty Utilities. That's going to account for about 85 to 90% of our district energy use. The other 10 to 15% is natural gas and Southwest gas. And just for this part of the presentation, we're going to focus on grid electricity. So what we have is for 86 different facilities, 46 are potable water, 40 wastewater. We have monthly kilowatt-hour readings from January 2015 to December 2022 that were gathered by my predecessor and myself. We source all this from Liberty Utilities Energy Growth, and we're going to be looking at the data that we pulled from that. Part of this energy baseline is we set a year that serves as our comparison year, our typical energy use. The only year in the past 8 years that could be considered typical is 2019. This is the only year that was the year that was post-drought. That was relatively normal winter compared to 2017. It was pre-pandemic, and there were no major wildfires that year. These graphs show some of the typical trends, or the trends we saw in our typical year. Up top is our potable water energy use. What you see here is a peak in the summertime months. And our bottom graph is our wastewater energy use. You see that there's a peak of kilowatt hours in the March-April months when the snowmelt is happening, and a secondary peak in July and August. So I will hopefully explain that in this presentation. This graph here displays our system-wide energy use. What you see is over time, the x-axis shows time, the y-axis shows our kilowatt hours. The green bar there is showing our wastewater energy consumption. The blue bar is showing our potable water energy consumption. Wastewater takes up 79% of our annual kilowatt hour usage on an average year, while potable water only takes up 21%. On average, in the past 8 years, we've used 18.8 million kilowatt hours. For reference, the average U.S. home uses about 10,000 kilowatt hours in a given year, so we use about the equivalent of 1,800 homes. Our most energy use was in 2017, that was 20.7 million kilowatt hours. Our least energy use was in 2021, only about 17.2 million kilowatt hours, so there's a range of about 3.5 million kilowatt hours. Our baseline year was our second biggest energy consumption year, that was about 19.9 million kilowatt hours. Focusing on our wastewater energy use, which is about 80% of our annual energy use. The 40 facilities we were looking at were the PURVEYOR pump station, wastewater treatment plant, 39 different pump stations that are within the basin, and then 7 outside county facilities. So as you can see on this graph here, it's broken out by wastewater treatment plant, PURVEYOR pump station, with those other 38 facilities. We see the same trends as our main energy, our system-wide energy use. In 2017, this is the highest usage. In 2019, the second highest usage, as the least in 2021. For 2017, the reason that we're seeing the most energy use is because of that rain-on snow event that happened in March of 2017. In 2021, we saw the least energy use because of the Tahoe fire in September, where we had the lowest flows on record. So what's influencing this wastewater energy use? One of the main influencing factors is our precipitation. Precipitation, as you can see in this graph, has a very strong correlation with energy use. The orange line represents our energy use, and the blue line represents the precipitation. Now you can see as energy use increases, so too does precipitation. And this is due to inflow and infiltration. As we have more precipitation and snowmelt in a given year, we will see more inflow and infiltration into our sewer system. Some of the seasonal trends we see are also dependent on precipitation. In modern years, we see a peak energy use in the wintertime when there's a little bit more snowmelt. In the drier years, we may see that peak in summertime. And just to illustrate those detail trends, this is a bar graph. So over time, we have each month, each different colored bar represents a different year, and our baseline year is represented by that black line here. I won't make you look at this too long. This is the pared down version. So we have our highest year, 2017, our lowest year, 2021, and our baseline year, 2019. What you can see in this graph is you see that peak in our largest year on record in March and April. And you see in September 2021, the blue line, that is the Tahoe fire there, represented by the lowest on record. And then in July and August of 2021, it's higher than March and April of that year. Our two facilities that use the most energy are the AD-HOC pump station and the wastewater treatment plant. This is because they receive all of the water. They're responsible for pumping and treating all of the water and then pumping it over into Alton County. This AD-HOC uses the most energy district-wide. It has a maximum horsepower of about 3,400. On average, it uses about 7.2 million kilowatt hours per year, which is about 38% of our annual district usage. The wastewater treatment plant, our second highest, it has a lower horsepower than AMROAD, and on average, it uses about 6.4 million kilowatt hours annually, which is about a third of our district usage. Focusing now on potable water energy use, we were looking at 13 different wells, 13 booster stations, 11 tank sites, and 3 tanks of boosters. Our wells are biggest consumption. We use about 70% of our potable water demand, followed by booster stations, and then tanks and pumps. This one doesn't follow the same pattern as before. Instead, 2018, we saw our most energy use. This is due to lifted irrigation restrictions following our 2017 winter. And in 2015, we see reduced energy use because that was the height of our drought. So the influencing factor is that we talked about this in the Lauren's presentation. Influencing factor is irrigation for wastewater, for potable water. This is because irrigation uses about 3 times more water use on average than typical house use. What you can see is pretty consistently in this graph, irrigation is going to peak in the summer months. The months of the least energy use are going to be March, April, and October. This is the pared down version of that graph that just shows 2018 water use versus 2015 water use. This is our energy use breakdown. As you can see, the AD-HOC pump station is our highest consuming one, followed by the wastewater treatment plant, followed by our wells, our potable water wells. Just to summarize what I've been talking about so far, so for our energy use stats, wastewater facilities are going to use about 4 times more electricity than water facilities per year. Our biggest energy users are the AD-HOC pump station and the wastewater treatment plant. In weather years, we'll see higher energy use, and that, just to reiterate that point, our baseline year 2019, our second wettest year in the past 8 years, we use more energy than all of 2017, which is our wettest year on record in the past 8 years. The biggest factors influencing energy use for wastewater is going to be influent infiltration from precipitation, followed by water consumption from, we will see that secondary peak in that summertime, that's due to the higher water consumption from our potable water side, which is influenced by irrigation. So, the two biggest areas of interest regarding our electricity use are the cost to the district and our district response cost. So, for energy costs, electricity is one of our largest operational costs. This graph here, the yellow line is cost, the blue bars are our energy. While the district is charged per kilowatt hour, you can see that it's not a one-to-one relationship. The year with our least energy consumption, 2021, is the second most, has the second highest cost, and this is due to the utilities rising rate increases. Next up is greenhouse gas emissions. Our grid electricity accounts for about 86% of our district's greenhouse gas emissions. These are scope 2 emissions, which means they're generated indirectly from purchased power. And this graph depicts our grid electricity emissions in metric tons of CO2 per year. What you can see in this image is there's a sharp drop in emissions from 2018 to 2019. This is caused by a reduction in the Liberty Utilities emission factor. The factor, which is in pounds of CO2 per megawatt, is determined every 3 years or so, and we pull it from AD-HOC, which is the system that the city and the district use to determine greenhouse gas emissions. The factor was updated in 2019, which is why we see that sharp drop. It reflects the renewable energy sources that Liberty has added to its portfolio over the past years. As this factor is updated and Liberty adds more renewables to their portfolio, we expect our Scope 2 emissions to increase. I know that I personally was interested in seeing how this winter stacked up within the past 8 years, so I wanted to share. When I shared this with Director Lonzo and Director Hayden at the ADJOURNMENT committee, I had this from January to March. I've updated it through April. But as you can see, between the months of January and April of each year, 2023 has used the most energy in the past 9 years. So what this means for cost and emissions, with the rate increases I discussed prior, this year is likely to be shaping up to be a pretty expensive year for the district. However, we don't expect to see greenhouse gas emissions that exceed 2017 because the emission factor is likely to reduce. So what the district is doing to address our energy use, you guys know about the wastewater treatment plant solar project. That's projected to reduce about 1/3 of the wastewater treatment plant emissions. So that will address about 1/9 of our total emissions, our total energy use. Other stuff that we're doing is addressing inflow and infiltration. So adding smart covers to manholes and ionized caps to prevent inflow and infiltration, CCTVing our sewer lines and start repairing where necessary, and then doing manhole assessments to assess the condition and location of our manholes. All of which will inform sewer rehabilitation and capital improvement projects. On the water conservation side, on the potable water side, ongoing leak repairs, leak detection, and water line replacement capital improvement projects aim to reduce the amount of non-revenue water that we are using energy to pump. And our water conservation team also works hard to notify customers of leaks and run programs that encourage reduced irrigation, including watering days and our Turf Buyback program. That's my presentation. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Yeah, as I looked at this, and actually want to try to dig with kind of recalibrating my thinking on this was, and as I talked about degradation of the system with water, and like that pennies on the dollars of how we're managing stormwater. I mean, as we look at sustainability, we're not going to be able to build, like at some level, we don't want to build ourselves out of that problem. We want to manage the stormwater system. So if we look to renewable energy, we also need to look to, true management of stormwater. I think that's, a serious conversation with the city, TRPA, El Dorado County. But if you were to look at this in terms of cost, degradation, sustainability efforts, climate change, all of it, in addition to the other things we're doing with renewable energy, that's the number one thing we should be doing, in my opinion, is looking to manage that developing systems. You have wait on some of the events and then use the electricity and treatment power pump is ridiculous. It's inefficient. It's a poor system. And so what I would love to see is like, how do we kind of take that concept of how we're discussing it today to then start some big fans in a meaningful way with all of our partners. And I think we already have these meetings with these various groups. We don't have something with TRPA. Maybe it's something we can probably wait until obviously Jan is brought on board. But I would love to see us kind of look to tackle this in a more meaningful way in the future. And I do just have one other point. In previous conversations, I referenced to the CPUC update that's looking at the tariff structure. One of the things that kept kind of referencing was the ability to move, power across parcel boundaries and have that freedom. And the loop past pump station for why that is small parcel, ton of power usage, and us as the district have huge land holdings both here in the basin and in Alpine County in the easement situation. And that would give us, particularly for Alpine County, a lot of advantages in terms of not just efficiency, but redundancy into how we pump water. And so as conversation exists with the city and CPUC and all that, I just wanted to kind of highlight why that's so important for the district. And great presentation, by the way.
So, yeah, you're an intern. You want to mention?
Yes, essentially.
This is really good.
Thank you.
You did a great job, great presentation too, so, way to go. The only thing, I guess, this is all local information that basically reveals, what Nick is saying, that wastewater is, that's our issue. Drinking water is kind of a, steady state. It uses a certain amount of power, and it's going to use, that much power every year. To the extent, I really think that water conservation, we need to focus indoors. And I will say, Ryan, I get a call when the toilets run. I get, we've got a rental, and I get this abnormal water use thing, it comes up on the email, and it was a simple toilet running, and that caused a pain, and that's important for this kind of a problem. So I think we're on the right track, to the extent that we can encourage the types of retrofits. State standards say if you do a major remodel, you got to put in a ultra low flush toilets, that kind of thing. But to the extent our education can really make people aware that every gallon that goes down the drain or down the toilet goes over with the pass, every gallon of it, and it costs us all, in power and greenhouse gases. This is, I think we can get people on board to try and reduce the indoor component of this thing. So, very good presentation. There you go.
Thank you, appreciate it. Before I walk away, I have a question for all of you. I'm staying on the district for a second term, and I was wondering if there's any information that you'd like to see in a future iteration of our energy baseline.
Can you answer that question once again?
Yes, of course. I would like to know what I can do more for the energy baseline project, and so I'm wondering if there's any additional information that you would like to see in a future iteration of this project.
Maybe taking it from baseline to even recommendations, right? We've talked about a couple, and maybe exploring those a little bit and seeing what innovations are out there. A little research on that might be helpful. But great presentation. Even seeing it the second time.
So I would say that the solution is multifaceted. It's not, clearly the highlighted big issue. But I do think we need to invest in renewable energy technologies, digesters, things like that. Those things that we can do to basically make our energy a lot less expensive. And I agree with Nick in terms of diving into some of these things, key findings that you kind of pulled up towards the end of your presentation, maybe getting some more concrete recommendations as it relates to how we plug that into our capital improvement program. And so I think that would be really beneficial. I'm always wanting to see how we link or how we drive decisions based on data and our asset management program. I wanted to get us tag that and use as part of the capital improvement program. Picture of the situation.
I mean, there's a time of use aspect of this. I know there's variance in data on this, but when it comes to liquid gas pumping, for instance, if there was, overnight tariff rate that was half of the daytime tariff rate, I think it would be interesting to understand, how that typical diurnal curve works, looks for us on the wastewater side, on the water side, and how that matches with the tariffs. And maybe there are some actions that we can do to, reverse those humps with some storage or, other options. And I don't know what kind of savings we could see if we change the diurnal curve a little bit. But so maybe it's just a typical curve rather than, 12 different curves or something. There's probably a way to present it that I think would help us, because from a cost standpoint, the diurnal curve is a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. I thought it was something I just had some time for time. But if you look at the cost information, one thing that I really want to look into is why, even though 2019 had the second highest energy use, we had the lowest total cost. And so maybe potentially, I want to look into see if that was because of the overcast kind of use updates that were added in 2017. So I'll definitely have that into my next iteration of this session.
Okay, well, one thing just to kind of, piggyback on Shane and Nick is in terms of future recommendations, almost to look at them in kind of two separate baskets. So, as we continue to advance more renewable energy, solar to biomass to pumped hydro, as it continues to advance, those are longer processes that involve a lot of different parties. I&I does as well, but I guess even looking at I&I, like what are those things that can be done that involve multi-year processes and so forth, but then what can the district do unto themselves, right? Where we can just start to implement these things in a more immediate fashion in comparison to kind of long drawn-out processes that, increase solar production, all those things are going to entail. That makes sense.
So you're looking for like short, medium, long term.
Yeah, there's things we can, I think sometimes we always get to the big part of the pie, but in reality, like, the success we want to achieve is going to be predicated on the small details, the perfection in which we execute those small details over and over again. And so in that thinking, what are the small details that need to be for loose ends and gaps that exist here in the district that allow us cost savings, start to deal with I&I, start to look at it from that lens. Because then we can control it and implement it in an immediate fashion. And so the Shane's pointing out, like, what's that basket? What are the ones maybe more I&I based on a bigger scale and what you're dealing with the multiple agencies, and then what are the ones, where you're talking about financing, PPAs, and all that kind of stuff, right? So kind of looking at a different spectrum. And you did ask what we want, so.
Thank you so much for that insight. I really appreciate it.
No, really, it was excellent, yeah, just good.
And then I guess for me, being on the ops committee, if you can check in with us, maybe every one half a year, every 3 months, I don't know, quarterly. I think it'd be good to kind of keep you plugged in.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you all so much. I'm looking forward to my second term with the district.
Yeah, thanks for sharing on.
I just have a quick announcement. The board is going to be receiving a link from HR, which is going to include training for sexual harassment that's due every 2 years. So that'll be coming to you, and it's already been sent out, so just watch your email for that. If you could try to target to get that training done by August 21st, that will help us. Shannon and I are going to be working on a certificate of transparency for the district. So it's a way to demonstrate through 54 different criteria that the district is doing everything they can to be transparent to our ratepayers. So appreciate your help on that.
Do we do the manager one or?
It's really just the general one.
The general?
Yeah, the general one.
Oh, really?
And I did really appreciate the email that said, you can't pretend it's a spam and ignore it. That's not really in my mind, so I appreciate that email.
Yeah, it's not a phishing email either, so.
We don't have any agenda on the agenda, so let's go ahead and put on the
Okay, a couple of reports, GM reports, one staffing, and then we do have a report on a spill that took place at Lincoln Pass earlier this week. So on the staffing side, we have reposted for the CAD analyst position on July 11th, and it closes on August 1st, so hopefully we'll get some more candidates for that. House is looking to hire an additional seasonal for their department because they promoted the one that they hired into a permanent position. In the plant operations, we had 18 applicants for an open position, and interviews were held on July 13th, and the ultimate hire went to ADJOURNMENT from our underground repair water department, so that position will have to be posted and filled now. And then in our IT department, we hired Vinny Stagnaro, the position we had open in that department, and he'll be starting next Monday on the 24th, and he comes to us from the city of South Lake Tahoe. And underground repair sewer, they had 3 vacancies, and they have hired 3 candidates to fill those positions. One was Dan DORADO, and he was a seasonal. And then we hired Sean Mitchell out of South Tahoe Refuse, and then Levi Gooddale from Tahoe Sand and Gravel. And we do have a new employee in the audience today, and he's going to be introduced by Steve.
So, we have a new water resources manager, Marcellus, and to us from Downwater. And, he has been about 2 months now, right? And he's been diving into all of Eco's local files and really learning a lot about Eco, just, through that process. And getting up to speed on the project and doing a great job for us. He's leading, the Tahoe well rehab, project. He's really, diving into the stigma stuff, making sure he understands all of that and all of our responsibilities in that role. And, also working really hard to try to get Paloma well back online for us. I think those are the 3 highlights. There's a lot more, but those are the 3 highlights that, really take a lot of the time right now.
Yeah, great to be here. I'm happy to be here in the basin, working for the district, and, not to date myself or Evo, but so when Evo started here, I was 6 years old, so there's a lot of institutional knowledge that, there's a lot to do up and what I hope to gain, so I'm happy to be here and looking forward to getting to know all of you.
So on Monday morning, this last Monday morning, at about 7 a.m., one of our inspectors was on the property. They were overseeing the recoding project on tank 1, which was assumed to be offline. So when they arrived, they noticed effluent was leaking from both of the manway doors to the tank, and so pumps and operations both were notified immediately. Operations stopped sending water, and shortly after began drawing it back. Once the staff could actually see what was going on, they determined that the inlet valve to the tank had failed and was allowing water to rise into the bottom of the tank. Since then, a steel plate has been welded to the floor, preventing more flow coming in, and we can repair that valve. Based on the flow coming from the entry doors, staff was able to estimate that the total amount of water that actually escaped out of the doors after it had filled up the floor of the tank, which is about 18 inches, they estimated the total amount that escaped was around 1,000 gallons. So fairly significant, but not too bad. One of our vacuum trucks went out there and sucked up all the standing water around the tank, but we definitely believe that some of the water made it to the creek, which borders the property and makes it down into Grass Lake Creek. So Lon was notified immediately of the spill. Staff arrived around 10 a.m. from the lab, and they took samples from various locations within the creek, and also where the creek enters into one of the ponds of the neighboring property. And the initial samples were non-detect for chlorine, but a more sensitive test did come back positive for ammonia. So we immediately placed signs around the creek, warning of the spill, and then also we had a couple of staff members knock on some of the doors in the neighboring property just to let them know what was going on. The next day, which was Tuesday, the lab took several more samples. Did not detect any ammonia downstream from the spill site, which was really good news, but we kept the warning signs in place because there were pretty high bacterial concentrations that were found in the test results that were taken Monday for the bacteria. So then yesterday on Wednesday, additional samples were taken again, and there was still no presence of ammonia, and the bacterial levels were back down to normal, and so we did remove the signs this morning. So hopefully everything's all good. Most important part of this report, I think, is that as we expected and to what we're used to, we had multiple departments collaborate, come together, follow all the proper standard operating procedures for this type of spill to ensure that it was addressed appropriately and professionally.
Thank you. And, thanks for everybody that responded. I mean, those issues happen, and sometimes you minimize it, and, no real harm done, right? I mean, the sampling sounds like it. Correct. Not that big deal, so.
So now that this will work to be on the tank.
Yeah, now we have two, not one of the 2 valves that are problematic heating tank that we're looking into either repair or replacement. So scope creep's going to happen.
right, anything else, Paul?
No, that's it.
All right, item 12 in the agenda packet are notices of past and future meetings. And with that, we're gonna close the meeting and we'll go into closed session. And this closed session is gonna be rather short, so ask the board just to stay seated and record.